What I want to do in this lecture is show you how you can ensure you're getting optimum amounts of oxygen and how you can prevent anything that would inhibit you taking up the oxygen. But let's first of all make a list of all the things that oxygen does. So what's the effect of oxygen on the body? It invigorates. I don't know whether you've heard of Wim Hof. Wim Hof is a man, yeah, there's a few nods. He uses breathing to control basically temperature, many things that's happening in his body. And he climbs Himalayan mountains in the snow in shorts and t-shirt. And he's got this method of breathing. It's breathing. And taking in more oxygen invigorates you, yes. It also, to the point where it can electrify the cells. That's how you're going to feel when every cell has enough oxygen to be able to give that sort of energy. It also soothes the nerves. We had a girl do one of our programs, and she was about 35, and on her wrist she'd tattooed "Just Breathe." Now, I'm not suggesting we tattoo "Just Breathe", I'm giving it as an illustration. She said that she learnt the Wim Hof method of breathing, which is breathing very quickly and very deeply and letting out, and she conquered her panic attacks. So whenever she'd feel a bit panicky, she'd do the deep breathing. And she said she even got off all her medication. Now, how simple is that? That's a very simple thing to do. You know, it's a great thing to teach children, because this is a skill that they can take through their whole life. I'll tell you what my son Peter does to my little granddaughter, Sophia. Not so much now, but when she was 3, you know what little 3-year-olds are like. Sometimes it's, I don't want to wear that dress, and I don't want to eat that. So Peter would take her hands, he'd sit down in front of her, and he'd say, "Now breathe." And she'd have to go, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if she got to 4 and went, "I don't want to breathe anymore," he'd say, "We'll start again." And she knew that there was only one way out of this, and that was breathing. 1, 2. When she got to 10, he'd say, "Would you like to breathe again?" And if she'd say, "No," then they'd start all over again. And if she'd say, "Yes, Daddy," and she had to smile, they'd do 10 more breaths, and then he'd say to her, "Have you got something to say to me?" And she'd say, this is 3, "Thank you for regulating my emotions, Daddy." And he'd say, "You're welcome," and off she'd go. Now let's say a few hours later he hears a irritated word. He would say, "Do we need to breathe?" "No, Daddy, I'm right, Daddy." Isn't that interesting? Such a simple thing. Now, my daughter said they were at a function and a little 2-year-old was being difficult. So my granddaughter Sophia goes up to her and says, "Breathe, breathe." 3, and she's teaching. Now, can you see what Peter has taught his little girl? How to manage those irritations that come to us every day, is that right? So whenever you're feeling irritated, remember Peter and Sophia. Breathe, breathe. It's oxygen, because we've got 1 trillion brain cells. And when those brain cells have enough oxygen, what's it going to do? Sorry, I forgot a very important letter there. It soothes nerves, all the nerves. But let's have a look at the effect of no oxygen. It's called hypoxia. Hypoxia is a medical condition. It's actually a dangerous condition. It's lack of oxygen at the cellular level. And it can get to the point of death. But there are many people who are suffering from hypoxia, but they're not to the blue lip stage. They're not on death's door. These are some of the symptoms. Fatigue. Feel like they've climbed a mountain and all they've done is got out of bed. Lethargy, can't even get out of bed. Nausea. The little cells that make up the stomach don't have enough oxygen, and when they don't have enough oxygen, they're not producing enough enzymes to break down your food. Headache. The brain cells don't have enough oxygen. I meet many people today that are drifting in that haze that lies between optimum health and severe illness. Do you find that? They're not jumping out of their skin with energy. They're not bedridden, they're just, "Ugh." And if you say, how are you? What's the answer? Oh, not too bad. What's not too bad? Not too good.